why is it necessary for ordinary people, you and me, journalists, policymakers, Maharashtrian voters, Indians, to understand the consequences of the dilution of the credit flow to our farmers, dilution of rural credit? Connected to this issue, if you don't give low interest loans to our farmers, then they are not able to have a financially viable operation. Critical to this is NABARD. NABARD is the Rural Development Finance Institution, DFI, created by an Act of Parliament in 1981 on the recommendations of the Shivaram Committee, that Card that recommended that NABARD should function as an extended arm of the RBI, that is the Reserve Bank of India, in the field of rural development and as a quasi-regulatory authority. Two things happen with the neoliberal policies of 1991-92, the 10 years prior to the implementation of the policies and the period since then. You have seen a complete freezing of the funds from RBI to NABARD. What does this mean? When we are going to be talking today to Rana Mitra, who is the General Secretary of the All India NABARD Employees Association. He will explain to us extremely clearly the criticality of this flow of RBI funds, which is statutory mandated by two things: the NABARD Act of 1981-82 and the Reserve Bank Act, which is a central act. Now, not providing money to NABARD is a violation of a central act of Parliament, and is the Union government, particularly under Modi 1, Modi 2 and now Modi 3, violating Section 42-43 of the NABARD Act and Section 46A of the RBI Act. These are some of the questions we will ask and answer in this conversation. But most importantly, we need to herald and salute the effort of the All India NABARD Bank Employees Association for ensuring that the ethical quotient and the vision of NABARD remains where it is. It is the association that has, for instance, calculated that in 1991-92, the last time that NABARD received this credit flow from the Reserve Bank of India to NABARD, it was 420 crores, which was approximately 8 to 9% of the RBI's income stroke surplus. Now, they tell us today, and Mr. Rana Mitra explains this very well, that in the 23-24 balance sheet of RBI, the surplus that the income that the RBI had was as much as 2,75,000 crores. If you calculate on the basis of the same 8 to 9%, which should have come to NABARD, then NABARD should have been given 22,000 to 24,500 crores. Instead, what happens? 2,11,000 crores goes straight to settle the Union government's fiscal deficit. What happens by this diversion and dilution of NABARD funds? A couple of things. One is that our farmers, including Maharashtra's farmers, critically dependent on decent interest rate credit, are denied this credit and become victims to the sharks of money lenders and pawns. They just don't have access to the credit. More than that, or as much as that, the cooperative bank sector, which is the only bank sector that NABARD can actually give this fund through, it cannot give it through private corporate banks, because cooperative banks give loans at a far less interest rate. The cooperative sector has also been made to dry up and die. So what will happen if, in fact, there's a demand from farmers, from citizens, from the Maharashtrian voter to ensure that NABARD adheres to its statutory mandate? The Union government is pressurized by a strong Maharashtra government that has a strong regional identity that stands for Maharashtrian farmers, asking the centre not to divert this fund of the RBI. It will mean that there will be decent credit flow to the farmer, and our cooperative banking sector, which has been allowed to dwindle and die, will also revive. A very interesting fact that Mr. Rana Mitra also tells us is that thanks to a very active All India NABARD Bank Employees Association, they tracked down, during the Modi government's first tenure, 1,100 crores being diverted to Anil Ambani's Reliance Fund under rural credit. Now, neither is Anil Ambani a farmer, nor is he a very deserving candidate. But this money was diverted to him from NABARD's precious funds and now has been written off as an NPA. So it's never going to come back to the taxpayer, never going to come back to NABARD, never going to come back, and nobody is holding Anil Ambani accountable. So a lot of glitches have been prevented, a lot of such glaring lapses have been prevented thanks to a very alert association, which has also been writing to members of parliament, and many members of parliament, particularly of the CPIM and even JDU Nitish Kumar, have responded favorably to this issue and are supporting the association's demands. So this interview that comes out again of the Kisan Commission's deliberations last weekend in Mumbai urges its viewers to also step in as part of democratic forces in India to ensure that rural credit flow to our farmers is ensured, that the DFI, Development Finance Institution status of NABARD, is restored, and RBI is compelled under its own statutory obligations, legal obligations, to give 8 to 9% of its income stroke surplus to the NABARD. By the way, the Kisan Manifesto, the Farmers' Manifesto that was released after the Kisan Commission meeting, also we will talk about in subsequent episodes. But one of the clear things that the Farmers' Manifesto for Maharashtra says, that Mumbai being the headquarters of institutions like NABARD and the financial capital of India, the new government, which is going to be voted in on November 20th, and we'll have a government hopefully by November 23rd, when the results come in, and hopefully there won't be any interference from either the Election Commission or the Union government, that the new government must leverage its strength to oppose any dilution of Apex DFI status of NABARD and ensure that the flow of NABARD concessionary funds are strengthened in the interests of landless, small, marginal farmers and development of people-centered cooperatives, banking in India in general and Maharashtra in particular. So this is one of the many 38 demands of the manifesto. We'll be coming back to the manifesto also soon, but please do listen in and watch this interview. Mr. Rana Mitra, General Secretary of the All India NABARD Employees Association.
We, on behalf of All India NABARD Employees Association, have been fighting to prevent this to prevent the dilution of the mandate of NABARD. You know that NABARD was born on 12 July 1982 by an Act of Parliament, and the Act says that NABARD will be specifically dedicated for sustainable agriculture, especially for the small and marginal farmers of this country. It will be a refinancing institution, and you may also know that NABARD was formed by the recommendations of a very important committee called Sivaraman Committee. The name was CRAFICARD, CRAFICARD. The full thing stands as Committee to Review Institutional Arrangements for Agriculture and Rural Credit. And that recommended that NABARD should act as an extended arm of RBI in the field of agriculture and rural development, especially in terms of rural credit, as an apex institution and also as a quasi-regulator to strengthen the hands of RBI. Now, after the launching of the neoliberal economic policy in 1991, especially, we have found, even after that also, NABARD has performed very well, and it has many laurels like SHG Bank Linkage Program, and it was launched in 1992. And now it has become, despite some dilution, it has become one of the largest microcredit programs run by the government. And here, there is a gulf of difference between the MFI model, which is now being promoted by the government, and the original model which NABARD brought by linking these SHGs with the bank finance in 1992. Now, our model is much better, microfinance model I'm talking about, is much better compared to the Latin American models. Because Latin American models, entirely it was driven by the corporate sector. The same attempt are being done now in India also.
Over how many years?
Over, say, especially after 2000. after 2000. This is the almost a juxtaposing of the Latin American model into that. Whatever you are seeing in the name of this microfinance institution, the menace they carry out, especially with the women borrowers, that was actually experimented long back in Latin America. But here, NABARD did a commendable job. But by the dilution of the mandate, what we mean is that from this basic mandate of the sustainable agriculture dedicated in the interest of the small and marginal farmers, now NABARD attempts were made to, especially in the last 10 years, even before that also, that it should dovetail all its financing and goals with the corporate agriculture. So that way, so far they have not been successful. It is mainly because of the fight of our association, All India NABARD Employees Association, as well as ably supported by the democratic movement of this country, cutting across political affiliations, that we have been able to prevent that. But there are, yesterday also you must have heard that I have spoken about how the NABARD finance is getting diverted to NBFCs, how this Anil Ambani Reliance Fund, we had funded them, and ultimately it resulted in NPA of more than 1100 crores for NABARD. Anyway,
that has not been recovered.
That has not been recovered, fully written off. And there are case studies about that also. But after our fight, now so far we have been able to prevent it, but these attempts are still very much on. With this, one more thing is linked. That is about the resource crunch of NABARD. Why? This is worldwide, if you see, the development financial institutions, which NABARD is, DFI, it cannot function without the strong government support and central bank support. When Krafikad and Sivaraman committee mooted NABARD, it was very clearly told that a portion of the RBI surplus, which I talked also, it is as per the section 42-43 of NABARD Act and as per section 46A of RBI Act. And you will find very few provisions, and I mean that's provisions to extend finance, which has the support of both the acts and both the Central Bank Act as well as the NABARD Act. What is it? Precisely is that the RBI surplus every year, operational surplus, rather income, not even surplus, a portion of that should be diverted to NABARD, so that NABARD also is mandatory for NABARD to utilize that fund at much lesser interest rates for the small farmer and marginal farmer. Since 1993, here there is a direct connection with the neoliberal economic policy. As you all know, the neoliberal economic policy was launched from 1991. From 1993, this fund is stopped. Earlier, the latest which NABARD got from the RBI surplus was 420 crore in two funds of NABARD, which is known as National Rural Credit Long-Term Funds, NRC LTO, and National Rural Credit Stabilization Fund, under section 42, under section 43. What is this long-term fund? Because if you see, yesterday also we have spoken in this Kisan Mazdoor Commission conference that how the long-term investments in agriculture is suffering. Short-term it is okay. Long-term goes in favor of capital formation in agriculture. And this particular fund was actually aiding to create the long-term capital investments in agriculture. Reserve Bank has stopped it. Instead, the entire surplus of RBI now is going to Government of India to balance its fiscal deficit. And this is a clear violation of the Act, because Act says this money should come to NABARD in a significant portion. I give you the example of the year ended 2024. The entire operational surplus of RBI, you must have noted, it is to the extent of 2,75,000 crore. And what is the amount RBI has transferred to Government of India? 2,11,000 crore. 2,11,000 crore. If we have done on behalf of our association a back of the envelope calculation, what does it say? Till 1992, we were getting something around 8 to 9% of the RBI income to NABARD. 420 crore. If you juxtapose it to the RBI income of 1992, it comes to around 8 to 9%. In today's situation, if you just add 8 to 9% of 2,75,000 crore, it comes to around 22,000 crore to 24,500 crore. This amount, had it come to NABARD, statutorily NABARD also is obliged to advance that money to the cooperatives, through the cooperatives, not through this money will not go through commercial banks, mind it. This money will basically go through cooperatives under a much lesser rate of interest. So that would have served a lot of purpose by rejuvenating the cooperative sector, as well as by rejuvenating the financing need of the small and marginal farmers to a great extent. We don't say that it will solve all the problems, but definitely it is having this connection. On behalf of our association, we have been raising this. We have approached to several honorable members of the parliament, and many have written, cutting across political affiliations, CPIM MPs, then even recently a JDU MP also, Nitish Kumar party, Rampreet Mandal, Bikash Ranjan Bhattacharya, our Amra Ram. Many, I can share all those documents, and they have strongly written to the Union Finance Minister that this is an area where the government should come out and intervene. We have strongly brought it out to the notice of the NABARD management also, to our honorable chairman, Mr. Shaji also, that you take it up with the government, because this is a statutory obligation of RBI also. So we need the support of the larger democratic forces, including trade union and several NGOs, your organizations, so that this most important demand of ours, in the interest of the small and marginal farmers,
And in reviving the cooperative sector.
and in the reviving, it is having a magic bullet, I would say. It will go a long way in reviving not only the finances of NABARD, and it will also rejuvenate the finances of the cooperative sector to a great extent. So that's precisely our point.